Thank you for attending this presentation on transport. My name is Glenn Gilbert. I'm employed by Ansett Airlines of Australia in the Data Processing Department. During this presentation, I will give you ideas as to the employment areas within transport companies that use computers as work aids. I will also attempt to give you ideas as to the future working environment. Transport generally can be broken down into four forms: air, sea, road, and rail. These forms can become two major areas: passenger and cargo. Unlike most companies that manufacture or sell goods, such as clothing, food, and cars, transport companies sell a service. That is, they sell a seat on a plane, a seat or berth on a train, or space on a truck for freight. Customers of transport companies very rarely see behind the scenes of that service provided to them. The most significant areas behind that service are as follows: mechanical maintenance, reservations, arrivals and departures, pick-up and delivery, and issue and replenishment. Computers have been progressively introduced into many facets of transport operations, lifting service to the passengers to levels impossible only a few years ago. The pace of the implementation of new duties for the computers is likely to increase in the years ahead. Passengers also have the assurance that a computer is keeping count of the operating hours of each aircraft, coach, boat, and truck to ensure on-time servicing and replacement of parts. Although computers achieve in milliseconds what would take a transport employee days, weeks, or even months, there can never be a replacement for people. They do, however, enable staff to operate more efficiently. To give you an idea of the areas of employment associated with computer-related jobs, we will look at two forms of transport: removal and storage, and an airline. A fictitious Mr. Smith has been transferred in his job to Sydney. We will see how Mr. and Mrs. Smith prepare for their departure and how the transport companies provide their service. All forms of transport services have similar areas of employment as the two we will follow through this presentation. Mr. Smith has arranged accommodation in Sydney until he can buy a house. Therefore, he must arrange for a removalist to take his furniture and store it for him. A phone call to a removalist starts the ball rolling. A clerk will write out a request form that will be used as input to the computer. The next day, a quotations officer receives a computer-printed form for each of the houses he will visit. When he arrives at Mr. Smith's home, he completes the boxes on the form marked space required and cost of removal and storage. On his return to the office, his completed forms are then used as input to the computer. From the information supplied to the computer by the request clerk and the quotations officer, a plan is constructed. The plan shows the furniture will only fill half the space available in one truck. A scheduler will compare various plans produced by the computer. His job is to fill all trucks, thus giving the company a higher profit margin. Again, he will use a computer to help him in his decisions. In the meantime, Mr. Smith must make an airline reservation. A phone call to an airline reservation clerk tells Mr. Smith the flight times for the day of travel. The reservation clerk uses a visual display unit termed VDU as his aid. The VDU is connected directly to the computer. Flight times told to Mr. Smith are shown on that VDU. A flight is selected and the reservation clerk enters the required details on the VDU and informs Mr. Smith that his tickets will be available at the airport on the day he is flying. It is now the day for the removalist company to pick up Smith's furniture. truck driver receives a computer printout showing him he has 3 lots of furniture for his transportation to Sydney. The printout also informs him the amount of space each lot requires and which order his truck must be loaded. Before the Smiths arrive at the airport, we shall have a look at a list of people that have already used the computer as an aid in their jobs. In the removalist company, we had the request clerk, the quotations officer, a scheduler, and a truck driver. In the airline company, we have seen so far a reservation clerk. As with all planes, the plane that will fly Mr. and Mrs. Smith to Sydney must have routine mechanical maintenance, the fuel tanks filled, food put on board, and the crew know which plane they are flying. So before we rejoin the Smiths, let's look behind the scenes. All flying times of all planes are recorded, just as you keep a check on your car's speedo. Maintenance records clerks feed the computer with flying times and other relevant data for each plane. The computer tallies service hours and automatically will advise when service checks are due. Maintenance planning officers use the information supplied by the computer to plan normal day-to-day mechanical service and major overhauls with greater accuracy. When a plane is in the hangar for service, a senior engineer checks the computer records of all parts of the plane to see if any of them need replacing. When a part must be replaced, a storeman issues the new part. He then enters this information into the computer. The computer will automatically update its records and issue a reorder form to a supply clerk. The supply clerk will assess all reorder forms and tell the computer how many new parts they require to buy. Meanwhile, the plane has been serviced and is towed to the tarmac area adjacent to the airport terminal. For all bookings made by the reservation clerks, a printout shows the pilot how many passengers are booked to fly. This information, together with weather details supplied by the Weather Bureau computers, allows the pilot to calculate how much fuel the plane will require. We now rejoin the Smiths as they arrive at the airline ticket counter. A booking office clerk will inquire on her VDU as to the Smiths' flight details. Upon confirmation, the computer will automatically print the required tickets on a special printer. Mr. Smith then presents his tickets and baggage to the check-in. While they enjoy a cup of tea, we will have a look at some of the computer-related jobs at the airport that are required to get the plane in the air. A mini-computer is used to keep workers informed of arrivals and departures. The computer is updated by operation controllers and the information is displayed throughout the terminal on VDU monitors. Baggage loaders check the computer monitors to see which plane they must load the baggage onto. The aircraft refuelers also check the monitors to know which plane the pilot has asked them to refuel. Catering people require the monitors. Ground engineers are assigned to a plane from when it lands until it leaves. They must also check the monitors. And last but not least, the pilots and hostesses will also find where their plane is on the tarmac by checking the monitors. Before Mr. and Mrs. Smith board the plane, they require seat allocation. A traffic officer uses a computer printout to tell him the names of all the passengers. He uses this printout to issue seat numbers. Now on board and flying to Sydney, we will leave Mr. and Mrs. Smith and review the list of people who have come in contact with transportation computers. In the removalist company, the request clerk receives telephone and letter requests. He answers queries as to the costs and, of course, fills in the request form for computer input. Quotations officer receives computer-printed quotation forms for the homes and business companies he must visit. He will assess the size of removal and storage, and of course, fill in the quotation form as input to the computer. The scheduler assesses computer-produced removal and storage plans. He uses the computer as an aid to make sure all trucks are full. His main aim is to gain the maximum profit for the company. The truck driver receives computer-produced load sheets. He loads, drives his truck, and at the destination, the load sheets are used as input to the computer for the production of invoices. In the airline company, as in all transport companies, maintenance has a very high priority. And the records clerk vets all operational hours and component change documents and inputs the relevant data to the computer. He also updates computer records with Department of Transport standards. The planning officers use computer printouts of aircraft status and required service checks to schedule aircraft into the workshop. He also keeps check on Department of Transport standards being adhered to. Senior engineers use VDUs to check aircraft and component history, and also the availability of spare parts. The storeman, as well as checking availability of spare parts, updates the computer inventory system as to issues and replenishment. Supply clerk receives computer-produced reorder forms. He assesses new purchases and updates the computer so that orders may be printed automatically. Reservation clerks advise intending passengers of flight details, hotel accommodation, weather forecasts, and car rental facilities, which is stored and updated into the computer daily. And of course, he must make necessary bookings through his VDU. The booking officer deals with the public personally, where the reservation clerk dealt with them by phone. But the booking office clerk accomplishes similar tasks to the reservation clerk, as well as issuing tickets from the special computer printer. Operation controllers feed a mini-computer of aircraft arrivals and departures. They continually update the computer with changes required by such delays as inclement weather. The information in the mini-computer is displayed throughout the airport on VDU monitors. Pilots and hostesses require computer printouts of passengers and weather information to fulfill their job prior to takeoff. Traffic officers use computer-printed passenger lists to allocate seat numbers. After a flight has departed, they then input to the computer passenger statistics. Aircraft refuelers, baggage loaders, ground engineers, and catering officers must read the VDU monitors as to arrivals and departures in relation to their various jobs. Catering officers also receive prior to flights passenger statistics to enable them to prepare food and drinks. Not only in transport, but also in other companies, there are three areas that computers play an important part as aids: accounting, management, and of course computer departments. I don't intend to talk on these areas as they will be covered in other presentations during this Congress. Many of the areas of employment you have seen in this presentation are now being upgraded to incorporate new technology in the computer field. In the forthcoming years, we will see an acceleration in the present trend to real-time computer systems for all aspects of transport operations. Transport companies are looking to computers to streamline their service to the public. Employees within these companies will use VTUs to communicate directly to the computer. Printed reports will only be used for management reporting, and employees whose jobs require them to be away from the office environment. Mini computers are becoming an important aid in transport. As we saw, the airport terminal, it could also be possible for many computers to be installed on a ship or a train. Where necessary, information could feed these computers via magnetic tape from the company's head office. Between now and the 21st century, many transport areas that are not using computers will utilise their facilities. As with airline and removals companies, coach, freight and shipping companies use similar techniques to run their operation. Jobs in all these companies vary slightly, but the use of computers as aids for the employees is here to stay.
Computers are used in many industries and businesses, and not just the large ones. Most metropolitan councils have some involvement with computers, either directly or through a computer bureau. That involvement is not just for the normal things for which computers are generally used, such as the preparation of payrolls and the sending out of invoices and the like. To understand the impact that computers have and will have in local government, it is necessary to first understand that councils provide a vast range of services which cover the needs of people in the community virtually from birth until death. Many of these services are not recognised as being provided by the local council. Did you know, for example, that when the street lights go out at sunset, that it is the council who pays for the electricity consumed? That the sausages you barbecued at the weekend were likely to contain what they're supposed to contain because a council health inspector analyses their contents regularly to make sure that this is the case. That the playground equipment in a little park down the street that the youngsters play on is provided by the council, as is the little park itself. That the house next door isn't a corrugated iron shanty because the council has to approve the plans of the house first and carries out inspections during its construction to make sure that it is built in accordance with those plans. Those examples represent just a few of the many and varied services that your council provides. But where do the computers fit in? You might be seeking a job with council as an engineer, a clerk, a gardener, or even a receptionist. How are computers going to affect what you do? Well, let's have a look and see where the computers do fit in. Most councils can be regarded as having two major departments: the Town Clerk's Department, which is also known as the Administration Department, and the City Engineers Department. Included amongst the functions of the latter department are design, construction and maintenance of physical facilities such as roads, drains, bridges, parks and gardens, building control, planning control, and in many councils nowadays, strategic land use planning. In the design area, computers are now being widely used to assist in the preparation of plans for roads and streets, and in some cases, the role of the draftsman is taken over by a device known as a graph plotter. Many of the complex calculations which are required in the design of a bridge are now performed by a computer, as are many of the complex hydraulic calculations required in the design of a drainage system. The computer can assist in the construction of these facilities through its ability to handle project control networks, such as critical path analysis, which will tell the construction engineer when he is ahead, behind, or on schedule, and will help him to make sure that the materials are delivered to the site on time, that the particular specialised labour involved is on the site at the right time, and that the costs are still within the original estimate. Cost control is an important element of the construction engineer's function, and screen-based interactive computer systems now give access to costing information, whereas in the past, this information was only available through printed reports, which often came out only monthly. Having helped in the design and construction of a facility, the computer can also assist in its maintenance. Again, this can be achieved through more ready access to costing information on maintenance expenditure, but the computer can also be used to prepare maintenance schedules. There are a number of tasks where this scheduling can be effectively done. For example, most councils have a large number of small reserves scattered throughout the municipality, which require mowing, and a program for this can be scheduled by the computer. Similarly, if council employees do not clean out drainage pits regularly, the drainage system may become blocked and not work effectively during heavy rainstorms. Computer scheduling of pit cleaning rounds will make sure that each and every pit is properly maintained. There are a number of areas where computers can be used in the control of buildings. Most common is the use of the computer to check the structural computations which accompany a set of building plans for certain types of buildings, for example, multi-storey office blocks. Prior to a permit being issued, the council officer must be satisfied that the building will not collapse under the likely loads to which it will be subjected. Once a permit is issued, a certain number of inspections have to be carried out at various stages, and for those councils whose municipality covers a large area, then it is possible to use the computer to schedule the route that the inspector takes to make sure that the least possible time is spent in travelling from job to job. An important duty of the Building Office is to prepare statistical returns for the Australian Bureau of Statistics on the number of permits issued, the type of construction, and the cost of construction. This is a somewhat complicated and time-consuming task to a mere mortal, but a fairly simple matter for a computer. The use of computers in the statutory planning area is not quite so obvious, but it is possible to use a computer to make sure that planning applications received are dealt with within the particular time allowed, that inspections are done by preparing route schedules for the inspectors, again to make sure that the minimum waste of time occurs in travelling. Another area where computers may be used, especially those which have some integrated word processing facility, is in the maintenance of a directory of standard permit conditions. In the strategic land use planning area, some work is being done presently to develop a system of geographical referencing which would then allow the computer to be used to extract such information as the number of plots of land within a defined area, the types of zoning present, and the types of development present. This sort of information is vital if strategic planning in the land use sense is to be properly done. The computer can also be used to great effect in the area of demographic analysis, which again is a vital component of strategic land use planning. Turning now to the administration area, we will look at the use of computers in areas other than the more traditional payroll and invoicing functions. In the accounts office, the accountant might well use the computer for cash flow management. This is particularly important as it enables the council to invest its surplus fund in the short-term money market. The accountant would also use the computer to exercise a high degree of budgetary control over both expenditure and income. The rate collector, whose job it is to collect the property taxes that the council levies, could use a computer in a variety of ways over and above the normal application of sending out the annual rate notices. Almost instantaneous access to the computer's master files will result in much faster response times to inquiries from ratepayers and to many other people with whom the rate collector deals. Some councils have recently installed cash receipting equipment which is linked to the computer, and this equipment again leads to a faster and more accurate handling of payments received. This is especially important at peak periods when several thousand payments can be received in one day. The property tax that is paid by ratepayers is based on the valuation of that particular property. This valuation is prepared by an officer known as a city valuer, and he is likely to use a computer to assist him in assessing the valuation to be applied to any given property. Computers may also be used to apply some indexing factor to valuations to allow for inflation perhaps, and some testing has been done to see whether it is possible to predict the value of a property by feeding the computer a number of variables. In the health and welfare area, the computer is used for such things as recording immunisations given to children of various ages, ensuring that those premises which are required to be registered under the Health Act are in fact registered, and that regular inspections are carried out during the course of the year. Some councils, which have high percentages of preschool-aged children in their municipalities, have developed computerised preschool enrolment systems to assist the council in meeting the demand for that type of facility. And computers have been used to simulate refuse collection rounds with a view to ensuring that the route taken is the optimum one, having regard to the capacity of the trucks, the number of dwellings to be cleared, and the distance to be travelled to the refuse disposal point. In the more strictly welfare areas, the computer can be of great assistance to social planners, particularly through the demographic analysis referred to earlier, and the impact of computers is even felt in the provision of home help and Meals on Wheels services. Some of you may have had a parking ticket for parking at an expired meter. Some councils derive a considerable amount of revenue from parking fines and use computers to make sure that the infringement notices are paid on time. If the fine is not paid, a check has to be made with the motor registration branch to find out who the owner of the vehicle is from the registration number. This is presently a manual operation, but it may one day be possible for the council's computer to inquire directly to the motor registration branch computer and the information obtained with little delay. Having received the information relating to the owner's name and address, follow-up letters are then issued, and where the computer is either linked to or has integrated with it a word processing system, a personalised letter is sent to the vehicle owner. Should this fail to elicit the desired response, the computer then at the appropriate time will issue a summons. Those of you who own a dog may be interested to know that many councils now maintain their dog registration records on a computer and use the computerised records as a basis to make sure that everyone who owns a dog has in fact registered it. In the general administration area, computers are being used in the development of internal file circulation control and in the recording of inwards correspondence to make sure that people who write to the council get a reply within an acceptable time. Computers and word processors are now being widely used in the preparation of agenda papers for council and committee meetings and in the preparation of the minutes of those meetings. Many councils have halls available for hire within the municipality, and computerised hall booking systems are presently being developed. Much publicity is given to the number of days lost in industry through strikes, but many more days are lost through industrial accidents. Some councils now keep computerised records of workers' compensation claims and produce periodic reports highlighting the most frequent type of accidents and the departments in which they occur. This information is then used to develop a safety training program, and if the experience of some councils is any guide, the introduction of such a program will lead to fewer accidents, fewer man days lost, and consequently greater output. The computer can also be used to store and manipulate a wide variety of information. Most councils own a large number of properties, some large, some small. Some have facilities built on them, like infant welfare centres. Some are left undeveloped for passive recreation purposes, and some are retained for future uses, such as road widening. The maintenance of this register, which was once a clerical function, will now become a computerised function, as will the maintenance of community directories, which record, for example, the names and addresses of the presidents and secretaries of the various community groups and organisations and sporting clubs that exist within and form part of the local community. The printed organisation list very soon becomes out of date, unless, of course, it is a master list. But if the master list is maintained on the computer, then everybody in the office has access to accurate and up-to-the-minute information through their video display terminal. The examples I have given from the engineering and administration departments are not exhaustive, and there are many more areas where computers can be utilised. The impact of the computer will be both direct and indirect. The person who wanted to be an engineer will certainly use the computer as a tool, just as he or she would use a level and staff. The clerk will find that instead of maintaining cumbersome manual records, most of the work that he or she does, whether it be to ascertain whether any rates and taxes are still outstanding on a property, who the owner of a particular property is, whether Mrs. Smith has paid her home help account, whether or not somebody can book the town hall for a wedding reception in April 1981, or whether Bill Jones is still the secretary of the local cricket club, all of these tasks will be performed with the aid of a computer. The gardener may not realise it, but the list of reserves he has just been given to mow this week by his superintendent could have been prepared by the computer, and the receptionist will probably have a computer display terminal at the desk so that he or she can answer many inquiries directly without having to refer the ratepayer to somebody else in a different part of the building. That then is where the computers fit in, almost everywhere. The recent trends for computers to become cheaper are likely to continue, and the impact of computers will be increasingly felt in local government as more and more councils find that computerisation is available to them at a price that they can afford. It would therefore be wise for anyone seeking a career in local government, no matter in what field, to become familiar with computing in general and the use of computers in their own field in particular.